Hi students, it's Mike again, and this is some stats help for Ms. McCluskey's 6th grade class. Hope you had a good day today. Today we're going to talk about 3 different calculations. The first one is called mean absolute deviation. Sometimes that's just abbreviated as MAD, M-A-D. And then we're going to talk about the range, and we're also going to talk about the interquartile range. So this is easiest to demonstrate if I have a big set of data. So I'm going to share my screen again and let you look at that. So let me pull up a spreadsheet I made. So here in column A, you can see, I don't know why it starts on row 4. Let me delete those real quick. In column A, I've got a whole bunch of data. So let me see how many data values I have. I have a sample that has 134 values. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate the mean absolute deviation. Let me add one row here so I can put some labels up here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to calculate the mean. Mean is just another word for average. So how do I calculate the average? Well, I add all these values together and I divide by the number of values I have. So since I'm using Excel, this makes this very easy. Let me do this. I'm going to, I'm just going to highlight my entire column of data. And you can see this little box down here right by the corner. It says 134R by 1C. That's 134 rows by 1 column. So you can, so I know that there's 134 values in this data set. Okay, now I have this auto sum function set up here. So if you look over here down on this green bar here, you can see there's a bunch of different statistics. The count tells me there's 134, the maximum value is 80, and the sum is 8,324. So if I want to calculate the mean, I take that sum of those values, which is 8,324, and I divide it by 134. So I'm going to do 8,324. This is a way of doing formulas in Excel. So I put this equal sign here. What it's going to do is going to actually calculate this value for me. And I'm going to divide that by 134. And I hit enter, and it says, hey, your mean is 62.12. So in order to calculate the mean absolute deviation, what I need to do first is I need to take each one of these values and subtract the mean from it. So I'm going to do that again using formulas, and this may be a little bit beyond the scope of what you're doing here, but I want to show you something cool. So if I want to do 47 minus this value over here, I just need to click on the cell. So this says equals A2 minus, and it's going to be K7, and I hit enter. So that says it's negative 15.12. So 47 minus 62.12 is negative 15.12. I want to do that for every one of these values, but I don't have to type in each one. I'm actually going to come up and modify this formula just a little bit. I'm going to put a $sign before the 7, and that tells Excel to, so here's what I can do. I can take this little, can you see this little box down here in the lower right hand corner? That's called the Autofill. So I can grab that box and I can drag it down, and what it does is it takes the formula that was in this cell right here and repeats it in these other cells, but it increases the cell by 1. So for example, this one was A2 minus K7. Well, the next one down is going to be A3 minus K7. Since I put that $sign in front of 7, it didn't do A3 minus K8. Since I went down 1 row, it wants to try to go down 1 row in both of the parts of this equation here, but the $sign keeps it the same. Anyway, probably way more than you want to know about that. Whoops, don't do that. All right, so hit enter there. Anyway, I can highlight these, and I can either just drag this all the way down, or I can do this cool thing. I can just double click on it, and it actually fills in that column all the way down to the very end. Okay, so I have a column that has my deviation. So this is going to be value minus mean, for instance. Okay. Now you can see I clicked that out there and got a lot more decimal places. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to do the absolute deviation. Now, I don't know if you've learned about absolute values or not, but an absolute value is when you take, well, if you take the absolute value of a number and then you just, if it's got a negative sign in front of it, you eliminate the negative sign, and if it's got a positive sign in front of it, you leave it alone. So, for example, the absolute value of -6 is 6, but the absolute value of 9 is 9. So you see what I've done there? If there's a negative number in front of it, I just I take the negative sign away. So I'm going to do this again with a formula. So I'm going to say equals ABS. That's how Excel does an absolute value. Absolute value of this number, hit a close parentheses, and I hit enter. And so let me stretch this out a little bit. I'm going to set these. We'll do to maybe 3 decimals. Okay, that's 3 decimals there. I'm going to do the same thing here, do it to 3 decimals. Add a number, do it to 3, whoops, wrong way, 3 decimals there. Okay, so can you see the absolute value of -15.119 is 15.119, just taking the negative sign off there. All right, let's go ahead and fill this in so I get all those values. Let me center both of these up a little bit so that look better. Okay, so now in the next column, I'm going to, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sum of the absolute deviations. So if I take the sum of the absolute deviations, I can just add them all up, again, by highlighting them all. This time I have a sum of 905.433. Can you see that down here? So let me write that down. 905.433, and that's the, increase that decimal there. That's the sum of absolute deviations. And now, in order to get the mean absolute deviation, I simply take the sum and I divide it by the number of values I have again. So let's remember how many values I have. Let's see, it goes down to row 135, but it started on row 2, so that means I have 134 values. So I'm going to say equals this divided by 134. So my mean absolute deviation is 6 point, I'm going to do it just 2 decimals, 6.76. What does that mean? Well, 6.76 is the average. So my mean is 62. My mean in my data set is 62.119. And 6.76 is the average deviation, the average absolute deviation from 62.119. So it's kind of a measure of how much the spread is of a data set. Okay, let's talk about a couple other things. I want to do the, let's say I want to do the range. We talked about this the other day, but range is simply the largest value minus the smallest value. So let me fill in some of these. The minimum value is 47. The maximum value is 80. So my range is simply equal to the maximum minus the minimum. In this case, my range is 33. There's a distance of 33 between the numbers 47 and 80. Okay, now I want to do the interquartile range, or the IQR. This is a little bit harder because I need to know what both the first quartile and the third quartile are. So as a reminder, we calculated these the other day, but let me show you how to calculate them once again. I've got 134 data points. So how do I find the median? Well, I take 134 and I divide it by 2. So what is that? That's 134 divided by 2. That's 67. So I look at the 67th value, and the 60. Since I have an even number of points, I look at the 67th and the 68th value, and I take the average of those two values. So let's see if I can get 67 values down here. Okay, So if I stop right there, can you see down here it says my count is 67? Okay, so my 67th value, even though it says row 68, because it started on row 2, my 67th value is 62. My 68th value is also 62. So that means my median is 62. Okay, now how do I find the first quartile? Well, I take 134 and divide it by 4, and that says 33.5. So I'm going to look for what is between the 33rd and the 34th value. So the 33rd value is going to be, there's the 33rd value is 55 right there, and the 34th value is also 55. So the first quartile is the average of 55 and 55, which is just 55. Now, the third quartile, this time I'm going to do equals 134. So I want to find, I don't know if you guys have done this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to multiply this by 3/4. So I want to find out what row is 3/4 of the way down on 134. That's 100.5. So I need to find my 100th value and my 101st value. And remember, this only works because my data are sorted from smallest to largest. So there's my 100th value, and there's my 101st value. They're both 69. So my third quartile is 69. Now, how do you find the IQR, or the interquartile range? You just subtract the first quartile from the third quartile. So the third quartile minus first quartile, hit enter, and that's 14, and that's my IQR. So both these are all range measures of, shall we say, spread. And the bigger the number is, the more spread out the value is. So you've got the MAD at 6.76, you've got the range at 33, and the interquartile range at 14. Okay, that's all I've got for today. So hope you have fun calculating those things for your data set, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, bye.